by my ass.
I'm only 4. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, Robert.
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I'm your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 46th year of the award at the 50th Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 1977. Today's guest you last heard discussing Mouse Trouble and the nominees of 1944. Please welcome back Casey Young. Hello, Casey.
Hey. Oh man, feeling very short and ready to be short today.
You are a short king after all, so we can get into this. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you back. You're just a great friend of mine, a pleasure to talk to. So yeah, but before we get into these, remind us, what is your familiarity with the best animated short category, just overall?
Overall, not very familiar at all. Yeah, I don't know a lot about the Oscars generally, but I think I am one of those people that hasn't quite clicked right into animation and shorts yet, as far as the awards go.
Hmm. Yeah, a very common story for most film goers, even in terms of Oscar buffs out there, is it's like most people just don't care too much about the shorts or animated categories. But like I say, pretty much every episode, that's why they were here. That's why I have this podcast, to just try and educate people a little bit.
Oh yeah. I always do get I learn a lot on listening to you and being on the podcast.
Well, thank you. But yes, let's just get into these nominees then. This year has four. The first nominee and the year's winner is The Sandcastle, directed by Co Hodeman. Uh, and well, they finally did it. After 13 nominations without a win, the longest streak of any company, the National Film Board of Canada has finally won an Oscar. This is
Yes.
also the first and only nomination for Co Hodeman. He moved to Canada from the Netherlands in 1965, hoping to join NFB. After he showed them his reel, they hired him almost immediately as a production assistant, eventually graduating to director and making his first film in 1969. Hodeman often plays with the materials he uses to make animated films. What films, various films of his using wooden blocks or soapstone, sealskin, and the Sandcastle specifically uses a mixture of sand animation as well as foam rubber puppets that themselves are covered with sand. He worked at NFB for almost 40 years, leaving in protest after 2004, when NFB began laying off employees and moving towards contract-based work instead. Hodeman still lives to this day. He turns 83 this August, though his last film was in 2011, so it's tough to say if he's still an active filmmaker. But no shame in retiring. He has had a great career behind him, so let's celebrate him with what's likely his most famous work. The sandcastle depicts many sand creatures being born from the sand and working together to build a fortress made of sand. Perhaps you'd call it a sandcastle. Casey, start us off. What did you think of the sandcastle?
I think I appreciate it a lot more listening to all the what is that context that you gave for it, because watching it I was like, oh, nice sand, and sand's tricky. Animating sand I imagine would be a hassle. And then you're like, yeah, and sometimes he uses seal skin, and I, I don't know. It's not, he sounds like a very talented. It makes me excited about I enjoyed it. Now I'm like, oh hell yeah, this was like a little piece of history here.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like we have. I think it was just last year that we had another nominee that did. Actually, no. I was thinking of The Street, but that didn't use sand. It's just that the director Caroline Shaw did use sand in other works. So this is
Mm.
technically the first nominee we have that used sand animation, which is its own subgenre of animation medium or whatever. And it's It's interesting, and it's like I think it is used just incredibly well here. It's like the film starts off with like just watching these like sand dunes morph, or in like what I imagine is like meant to be the wind or whatever. How it's just like it forms ripples in the sand and all that.
Mhm.
It's just beautiful just to watch that. But then we start getting all these weird little creatures that are just they're so cool. I love them. It's like you got these like three-legged things. You got a little snake guy. You got this thing that's just a head with legs that just like wobbling around. And it's just like, and they all come together to just like push the sand around. It's like the snake's digging holes. It's just like it's just cool. It's just fun to look at. It's they're just vibing, and it's like it's I just really like this one. I thought it was just a pleasure to watch. It's just, oh, I loved it.
Oh yeah, nice. I love how much you loved it. I was like,
This
yeah.
is great, and I didn't even really expect it because like I've seen all these nominees before, and it's just like my last rating was just like a 3.5, a low 3.5 at that. So it's like, oh, it's just gonna be an over long short film that's like it could have been 5 minutes, but no, it's just like this is 13 minutes long, and I was thoroughly engaged throughout. Like I was just full attention, just like, damn, this is cool.
Heck yeah, man, I love it.
Yeah. Just it's just creatures vibing in the sand. It's just like I want to say more about it. It's just like because it deserves to have more words, but honestly, that's just what it is, and it's cool. And I just want to say I mentioned this to you beforehand, but this whole category, like if you at home, if you wanted to watch just like a year of animated shorts while high, this would be a good year to go through because three of these are like no plot films that are just like watching visuals be pretty or whatever, just watching something on your screen for a few minutes. And the other one that has an actual plot is still just very vibe heavy. Like it's just a hangout movie. And so it's just like, just toke up and just chill out for like an hour or watching these animated shorts. You'll have a good time.
Just toke up.
Exactly. But and that probably reveals like how little I smoke because that's probably just completely outdated language.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, yeah, just roll a good old marijuana cigarette and sit down, watch some Sandcastle, baby.
I have been I've been reading Doonesbury recently, so that's probably why.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You picked up on your Doonesbury comic strips,
Uh, which definitely doesn't have anything related to any of the future nominees.
and that came out of nowhere. Yes.
Yeah. I just like Doonesbury. Anyway, our second nominee is The Bead Game, directed by Ishu Patel. This is the 14th nomination for the National Film Board of Canada. So even when they finally win, they still also lose since they have multiple nominees here. This is the first of two nominations for Patel. He was born in India and spent a long time in art school, getting his Bachelor of Fine Arts in India, getting a postgraduate degree in Switzerland, and eventually found himself in Canada to study animation at the NFB. And he ended up staying there for over 20 years, just becoming creative for them. And in his time, he experimented with many different camera techniques, which we will talk more about on his next nomination, Paradise, in a few years. But for now, the Beat Game not only garnered this Oscar nomination, but it also won the BAFTA for Best Fictional Short Film. So congrats to it. The film uses many multicolor beads to depict evolution as increasingly complex animals eat each other and birth or morph into more animals, and then depicting human existence and war, then moving down to the atomic level and also depicting the universe itself. Just a lot covered here in what is otherwise a very simple animated short. And I thought this again, this is a very visually stunning short. I really like the animation style. I like how it all moves together. Like it all just like how easily things morph from one thing to the next. It's just and it's only 5 minutes long too. So things just keep moving so quickly. It's a very visually pleasing film, I guess. As but it, but yeah, it's I just really liked it. I enjoyed watching it, and it's like and I, and while the last one didn't really have much to talk about, this one at least seems to have commentary on a lot of different things, though perhaps it feels almost a waste to unpack it because it's exactly what I just said in the intro. It like depicts evolution, depicts human existence, war. There's an atom bomb thing at the end, and it's like, wow, well, that's life. Yeah. What about you, Casey?
Yeah, I agree. I think, watching it, you get that first 30 seconds or a minute or whatever, and yeah, you go, oh yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. And then it just keeps like ramping up. You go, oh yeah, the food chain, whatever. And then it gets to like, oh, they're
It's people
this is
now.
saying something now. It's a little, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. A
War bad.
lot of fun. Yeah.
Hey guys, have you ever thought war might be bad? I watching through these shorts for the podcast, like just going year by year, I forgot how many like anti-war shorts there were. Which makes
Hmm.
sense considering, we are going like I just went through the 60s and 70s, which, inspired a lot of anti-war sentiment
Hmm.
for some reason. Uh, but it's just yeah, animators are not fans of war, apparently. Is that surprising? Who knows? Uh, but yeah, again, I want to talk more about this because it's a short I really did enjoy. But at the same time, I don't think there is really much to talk about. It's just a 5-minute short film that shows evolution and war and everything. And it's good. It's really good. You
It's
should
good.
watch it at home.
It comes with a high recommendation.
Yeah,
That's all we can say.
and there's not even anything like any minor moments in it that I could point out. It'd be like, oh, this specific scene here was like really nice because it's all just kind of one sequence. And so it's
Yeah.
all like I can't remember any like specific fish or whatever in the first part that were interesting. I guess I did like when it was doing like the war section, it's like it did this really cool effect where it's like it had like these layers upon layers of soldiers, and it's like they all moved around really in really interesting ways. It's like that part I remember really liking. And also the ending. The ending is really nice, where it has the guy with like the beads in his hands forming like strings or whatever, and you have like the little atom thing in the middle. That's a
Yeah.
cool note to end on. It's a very striking image.
Yeah.
In a short with many striking images, but that's the ending one.
That's the ending one.
This is a train wreck already, and we're only like 10 minutes into this at most. Oh
that,
God, this is
that
gonna be
happens.
short.
Oh man. I shouldn't have said I was feeling short. I jinxed us just right from the beginning. Now everything's
Oh,
gonna be short.
it's okay. As we move on to our third nominee, this is going to drag things out a lot. Uh, our third nominee is a Doonesbury special directed by Gary Trudeau and Faith and John Hubley. First, this is the first and only nomination for Gary Trudeau, the cartoonist behind the long-running Doonesbury newspaper comic, and who still makes a series to this day. This is also the final nominations for the two Hubleys, making this the sixth for Faith and the seventh for John. And this is also a posthumous nomination for John, as he passed away during production, going into the hospital for what was supposed to be a standard heart procedure, but eventually died due to complications in 1976. And there's something almost comical about how the two men to receive posthumous nominations in this category are Walt Disney and John Hubley, one man who built the world of Hollywood animation and the man who sought to go completely against everything the Rat Bastard stood for. Or, In the world of animation, the Hubblies were the definition of counterculture. At every step of the way, they sought to go against whatever the mainstream was. I've talked many a time about the style of the Hubblies and how they differ from the Disney fare and how they're a massive influence on the larger world of animation. So I'll keep it short for now. Maybe I'll elaborate upon it in the bonus episode. But the point is, the death of John Hubley is and was a massive loss. But at least he left behind a marvelous legacy, and the stuff he's done for animation will ensure that his name is heard for a long, long time. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that despite I a lack of Oscar success after this point, Faith Hubley did continue to make films after John's death, many often focusing on world cultures and traditions and folk tales, and they are really worth checking out, even though most people seem to completely ignore them, even the people who do admire Faith and John Hubley. But I digress. Yes. We move over to Doonesbury. Hey, this is a long intro. For those of you who aren't 50 years old, Doonesbury is a newspaper comic that started in 1970 and was about a group of politically disparate college students who all lived together at the Walden Commune. Mike Doonesbury, the everyman, Zunker Harris, the stoner, Mark Slackmeyer, the activist, Beady, the conservative football player, Boopsie, the dim-witted cheerleader, and Joni Caucus, a born-again feminist that left her husband and kids and found herself living at the commune while she works at a daycare with aspirations of going to law school. The comic became famous for its ability to tackle contemporary issues in a non-preachy manner, courting an audience all across the political spectrum, though still becoming controversial on many occasions, often pushing the boundaries in terms of what you can show in a newspaper comic, often featuring, sex, drugs, the whole shebang. Most famously, uh, in terms of pushing the boundary, was Andy Lippincott, making history as the first gay character in a newspaper comic in 1976, and then being one of the first mainstream depictions of AIDS, as he was diagnosed in 1989 and died in 1990. He even getting a panel on the AIDS memorial quilt, the only fictional character to be featured on it. I also want to mention that the first 12 years of the comic, from 1970 to 1982, the characters were just college students forever. It was a comic about college students. Then in 1983, Gary Trudeau took a break from the comic in order to make Doonesbury into a Broadway musical in which the characters graduated from college. After that point, when the comic returned in late 1984, the characters were not stuck in time and actually aged as the comic went on. This has nothing to do with the TV special. I just really wanted to mention that Doonesbury had a Broadway musical and it flopped. Uh, but finally, going back to a Doonesbury special, which also won the Short Film Jury Prize at the Cannes Film Festival, it centers around the Walden Commune, as Zunker declares the commune to be passé. We also see scenes from multiple Jimmy Thudpucker concerts, the daycare Joni works at, and rehearsals for a rock and roll nativity play. Casey, I've talked for so long. What do you think of a Doonesbury special?
Absolutely loved it. Um, we in the past have talked about how I used to read Doonesbury as a kid and never really got it. Um, but like kept coming back to where I'd be like, oh, I got the one joke out of my Doonesbury this week. Um, and watching it with like, be it my limited political knowledge, is just so much more satisfying. And it's like, man, this is really really funny,
Hmm.
and it kind of makes you wonder like if there is still like I don't know if there were people who were like, oh man, this is garbage, this is like uncultured, it's brash and uncool, whatever. Like, man, it's fucking, it's, excuse my language, it's very good. That's
Hmm.
all. I think i think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I just want to talk about like my history with this. Like the first time I watched this, my first run through of all the animated short nominees, I didn't know this was based on a comic. I didn't know what Doonesbury was. I just thought, oh, it's called a Doonesbury special. I thought Doonesbury was where they lived. I thought it was the city. And it's just like, and when I watched it back then, I was immediately just in love with it. I just thought, wow, this is just such a perfect vibe, and it's just like the has such a great analysis of like nostalgia and change and things like that. And it's just like, wow, it's just so perfect. And then, of course, years pass, and in the lead up to this episode, kind of just unrelated to it. I just got really into the Doonesbury comics. I bought a whole collection of them, and like the 40th anniversary collection, which doesn't even have every comic, but it has like a a big chunk of them just to give you an idea of all the characters and whatever. Uh, I read through that up to this point, up to 1978. I also in my Hubley standum, I bought a book that was like the storyboard board and the script of the Doonesbury special. Oh, and it also has a foreword from Faith Hubley and Gary Trudeau. That was a very interesting read. And I also bought, so I don't own a record player, but I bought the vinyl of Jimmy Thudpucker's songs, who is a fictional character, but he has an album, and I bought it for some reason. I don't know why. I just thought it was $10 on eBay, and I bought it. And it's the only vinyl record I own, and I can't listen to it. Well, I guess I can. It's on YouTube or something probably, but I can't listen to the record. Uh, so yeah. And after that, how does this short hold up? It still holds up really damn well. It's like I feel like knowing the characters does still add a lot to like understanding the short as a whole. But even then, I still love it about as much as I did without knowing the characters. But God, this is just so damn good. It's like, first of all, it is it is extremely well animated. Like, uh, Faith and John Hubley are known for their use of limited animation, which is partially due to like, not having any budget, but partially because, they can do really artistic things with the limited animation. And this is probably the most detailed I've seen them get. Like maybe something like Cockabooty is more detailed. Uh, but yeah, it's just like you get some really interesting sequences, especially in the first Jimmy Thudpucker concert in the film that Zunker watches on TV. It's like you have the quote unquote camera just flying through the different band players and the instruments and all that. And it's just amazing to look at. Like it's almost like a fucking Richard Williams film. It's just like the way the camera just keeps moving, and it's like you have to just redraw the whole scene each time. It's just it's something you don't really get to see, especially in 2D animated films. It's like it's something you gotta appreciate. And then of course it's funny. I love the Doonesbury humor. I love the comics, and a lot of the scenes in this are just scenes from the comics. And the jokes are the exact same, but I still laugh as much as I did when I read the comic itself. Um, and but the thing that sticks to me the most is the same thing that stuck to me before, and that was just a lot of the thematic elements to it. Because like the big centerpiece, I guess, of it, or the big inciting incident is when Zonker at when they're having dinner that Mike made, and it's apparently alive. Zonker has a speech and he talks about how the commune is passe, and it's just like they don't like their personalities don't mesh with the idea of a commune because they are, into organic gardening and they don't have group sex anymore. Or as it's like, and of course, the other characters interpreted this first as a joke, but it's just like they realize that it's more about the idea of change and things that things have to that you aren't the same person you used to be, and things move on. You have to move on at some point. And yeah, it's just really effective. It's just and there are multiple conversations like Mike and Joni in the or not yeah, Joni in the kitchen have their own conversation, and then at the end of the short we have Mike and one of the little girls from the daycare talking about the revolution against like Nixon or whatever, quote unquote revolution. And it's just I just love this. I love this dialogue. I love the thematic elements to it. I could watch this thing over and over again. It just hits me so hard. It's just so good. I don't know how else to really talk about it. I just love this so much. And also the rock and roll nativity play and BD on the football field and Zonker keeps fucking interrupting him is hilarious. It's just like when it tries to be funny, it's really funny. When it tries to be, something serious, it just hits. And it's just like every part of it just works for me.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Any any comment on what I've been saying?
Um, yeah. Oh gee, I don't know. I agree. Oh man. It's hard to follow that. That was unbridled passion. I was just like, yeah, 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 I'm in your corner though, for sure. Yeah. Um, yeah, when art is good, it can really shake you up.
Any scenes of this stick out for you? Like, what was your favorite part, Casey?
What was my favorite part? Man, I'm so yeah. I love the I loved the football sequence
Yes.
where all the guys are going, wait. I think maybe we should, do this a little more democratic, whatever, their jokes are. Uh I loved it. I,
Hmm.
I think that I think that stuff is really funny. I don't know. I like that it parallels our love for football with maybe war lust, things like that. I think
Hmm.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Um yeah, that was solid. But all of it's really, really funny. Like, you know, uh,
Yeah. Uh, it's speaking like since you mentioned like the juxtaposition of like football and war less that I like the scene where like Beatty is watching football on television, but once his favorite halfback gets sacked or whatever, killed as they say it, that makes him like stop watching TV and go argue with his roommates because he has nothing better to do. Who is just like talking about the Vietnam War or whatever, or just like I went and fought. It's just like we could have won. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love how Mike points out that Beatty only went to Vietnam to get out of a term paper because I love that it's a something that was in the comics. It's just like it's just so funny. Hey, and it's like that's another thing I really appreciate about the comic about Doonesbury as a whole. Well, is that like you do have like all these characters that are of differing uh political backgrounds. And it's just like it never asks you to agree or disagree with any of them. Like, sure, you can. And it's just like it's not about like your personal opinions on any of these issues. It's just about portraying these people as they are, or these characters as they are, portraying them as humanly as possible. Well, and it's just like that's nice. It's nice to see. It's not like straw men or anything. It's just these are characters. These are people you would find on the street, or at least you would in 1978 or whatever. Or as just it's different. It's nice, and that's why Doonesbury was so popular because it was so different from every other newspaper comic. And it's great. It's great stuff.
Heck yeah.
Thank you, Casey.
I'm so behind you on this.
Oh, this episode's really a train wreck. Okay. So our fourth and final nominee is Jimmy the Sea, directed by Jimmy Picker. This is the first of two
Yes.
nominations for Jimmy, and the only nominations for co-producers Robert Grossman and Craig Whitaker. And I'm almost thankful there's nothing really to say in terms of background information for this one because of how long I spent on the last one. It's just a claymation film featuring a grotesque caricature of Jimmy Carter singing Georgia on My Mind. And that's it. And yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. We have this really ugly looking portrait of Jimmy Carter that looks like fucking white chicks or something. Like, and he's singing along to Ray Charles, or lip syncing or whatever, and then he goes and flirts with the moon and an anthropomorphized version of the state of Georgia as he's singing along, and that's it. That's it. What do you think, Casey?
Beautiful. Loved it.
Yeah, so
you
did I.
know, I think it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like if a SNL skit got an Academy Award nomination. Like if I was just like sitting on my couch watching SNL and they were like, "Oh, we've got an animated segment coming up," I'd be like, "Oh hell yeah!" Like, "Oh my god, Jimmy Carter, George, oh they got the Peanuts." But some friends of mine were talking about Argo and talking about how Argo is a really great movie, but by being amongst other Academy Award Best Picture winners, uh, it's not that great. You know, people it gets a lot of flack it doesn't deserve, and that's how I feel about this about Jimmy the Sea. I think if it were an SNL skit, it would be up there with fucking I don't know the shark that says he's pizza delivery or Debbie Downer. You know, one of the big ones. I don't know.
Jimmy the Sea and David S. Pumpkin side by side.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
exactly.
I, I'm just imagining like SNL hosted by Paul Simon and musical guest Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, except he's Clay.
Heck
Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, it's like I agree. It's just like this is the most basic dumb thing there is, but at the same time, it just works for me. It is just Jimmy Carter singing a damn song, but the song is good and it's funny to just watch the clay move, and it's just I especially love like so when it moves to like the either the scene with the moon or the scene with Georgia, it's like they have this tiny version of Jimmy Carter, or and that that tiny Jimmy Carter is the most scrunkly thing I've seen. He's just so tiny. It's like I want to have a little Clay Jimmy Carter sitting on my shelf. Oh, this is a little cute little guy.
He was extremely cute.
Yeah.
Just so small.
Yeah. And
A lot of
I don't
fun.
really care about Jimmy Carter, the president. Like he is probably by default the best president. Uh, from what I've read at least. Like I have in the past I have like tried to go through like his record and just be like, okay, what the fuck did this guy do that was fucked up? Because every president has like, they have like interventionist foreign policy or they were a slave owner or whatever. Or and it's just like, okay, what's wrong with Jimmy Carter? And it's like I couldn't find anything. It's the thing.
Yeah.
He was very good about even like the easy shit, like toppling regimes in South America. He didn't fucking do that. He was trying to improve relationship with communist countries and especially in Latin America. And so it's just like, damn. But of course,
Yeah.
Reagan came along and was just like, okay, you got a good one. Now we need to have Super Hitler here.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck Reagan.
Fuck Reagan. Fuck Ronald Reagan. Rotten
Yeah.
hell. Piss on his grave.
Oh my God. Something tells me that we're gonna be getting the call from the FBI when this episode goes up.
He's already dead. We can't do anything else.
Yeah.
But unless I decide to share my thoughts on Joe Biden, I'm kidding.
That's a joke.
But the
That's a
thing
joke.
is, the thing about this podcast is that there are so few listeners, not even the FBI is listening. Anyway. Uh, Jimmy the Sea. It's a fun short. It is cute. It lasts for 3 minutes. And it is exactly as long as it needs to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
And I think that's it. I think we've run out to say any about all of these. Okay, that was quick. And now that we've gone through and talked about the four nominees, we will rank them all. Casey, start us off with your number four.
My number four. My number four is gonna have to be the bead game.
Ooh, all right. My number four is Jimmy the Sea. Just very, like it is very fun, but also I loved all of these. And it's just like it is very obviously the one with the least substance. It's an I, being only 3 minutes and being as extremely simple as it is, it's just like, yeah, it just ends up fourth here. But it's still like one of the best shorts of this decade. Number three.
Oh, my number three is gonna be Jimmy the Sea.
All right. My number three is the Beat Game. Glad we agree.
Wow.
We just kind of flipped that. But yeah, uh, it was very fun to look at. I enjoyed what would count as a plot for it. Just the different images and how they all move together and all that. Very nice sense of movement. But again, I loved all four of these, and this one just has to end up third. What's your number two?
The Sandcastle.
Interesting. Mine is also the Sandcastle, which,
Okay.
like I was saying, it is. I just love the way the characters moved. It really used the sand animation in a very interesting way. It is just like I really do understand why this one won. It's just really great. It's just a very solid animated film. But then for number one, we both picked a Doonesbury special.
Woo, 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 woo.
Woo! All right. Yeah, like the only one of these with an actual plot, and even then, it's very freeform after that, as a Hubley film should be. And it's just like, it's funny, it's got good themes, it's got musical numbers, it's just got everything you need. And it's just like, I wish the Peanuts specials would have been eligible for the Oscars too, but they weren't because they didn't air in theaters. Uh, But it would have been nice to see more nominees like this on here. Well, I guess the Peanut movies aren't exactly like a Doonesbury special. There's a few key differences between them, but still. Oh, I just forgot one thing to mention. I just love the way the Doonesbury characters are designed. I love the way Carrie Trudeau, like, especially the eyes of them, the like dark outline on his eyes. I think that's just so good for a character design. I don't know why it hits me so good, but it just does. Adds so much character to them. Yeah, I just wanted to add that in real quick.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
mhm. Before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Casey, or anything you'd like to promote?
Uh, no, I had a great time. Love talking to you.
Uh,
Uh,
I love talking to you too.
Shucks. Uh, yeah, no final comments besides, good year. You're right, it
Very
was a
good
good
year.
year.
This is definitely like the best year of this whole decade. Hey,
Oh yeah.
it's just like four great films, even though I do see a lot of people that really hate Jimmy the Sea. And it's just like it's like I think it has like a 2.7 on Letterboxd. It's like one of the lowest
Oof,
rated films like ever nominated for an Oscar.
wow. Jeez.
But
That's
yeah,
messed up.
people just hate Jimmy Carter for no
So
reason. What did he ever do to you? Oh, did
his
he build
Wikipedia
your
is
house too
clean.
well? Is Jimmy Carter dead? I forget. Like, did he die like recently?
Did he die recently? Oh, this is so embarrassing. I don't think he's dead.
Let's see. Um, no, I don't think he's
He's
dead.
alive. Yes. Yes, Jimmy Carter, yes.
All right. Maybe he'll listen to this. Although
I
I remember
uh,
hearing that he was like recently put in hospice or something. Yeah, in
oh yeah.
February he was put in hospice care.
I hope he lives to be I hope he lives like 20 more years. I hope he just starts freaking people the fuck out how fucking old he gets.
No, unfortunately that's gonna be Henry Kissinger.
Oh boy. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it is.
yeah, Kissinger's almost at 100.
Yeah, I saw a tweet because I get all my news and information from Twitter. That his 100th birthday is next month.
Wait, I just realized his birthday is on May 27th. I'm looking up when this episode comes out. Oh
Oh,
yeah, so this episode might be after his 100th birthday. Well, it will come out
oh.
after his 100th birthday, but hopefully he'll die before it. He
Okay,
cro
let's rewind before we do another Betty White. We announce it too early.
No, no, I'm covering my bases. I'm covering my bases. Whether
And...
he
we
might
gotta stick to
potentially die.
legal.
We're crossing our fingers, hoping he does, but we just have to wait and see.
The FBI is gonna call us about this episode.
Like I said, they're not listening. No one's listening except for Christoph, Ronaldo, and Owen. This is the second time with one of my KRGC friends that we called out, the three listeners of this podcast.
Well, we like to know everybody we're involved with.
Hmm.
We're like a mafia family.
Yeah. And, and since we're rounding out the 5 episode run where each one is just a different friend that's in a group chat I'm in, what did you guys think of this run? Who was your favorite of my friends? Who was your least favorite? Leave your rank my friends, please, in the replies.
We're doing the kids choice awards, like best KRGC member on short podcast about short films. And then yeah,
No,
we're
no,
right.
it's
We're between best kiss and best action scene or fucking whatever.
no, it's American Idol, where it's the one who performs the worst gets kicked out. They get their Twitter account banned. All of them, even if you have like four of them. All right. Well, thank you, Casey, for coming on the show, and thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been the short podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.